Welcome to the live stream. Wow, that's not the picture I wanted. There we go. So welcome to the live stream. My name is Keith. Let me know if everything sounds good. And it's good to see some of you guys already in the chat with me. Let's see. Earlier tonight, as usual, getting the front row seat. Let's see. Chat on the air is Hank. And I'm not sure Hank's on right now, but he was on earlier. And good to have you, Jay, in the house. Good to have you, Tony. And we will we'll get going here in just a minute. We're going to let people jump on, but it's good to have you here. I'm going to just chat about something real quick before we get started, and then I'll talk a little bit about where we're going. But this week I mailed back my second prompter from Elgato. Let's just say hi here real quick. I don't know why this is not populating here, but I see David is in the house, and for some reason, this chat is just not participating for me tonight. Yeah, I don't understand why this thing does not populate correctly. Aaron Parecki's plugin. Yeah, it's weird. There we go. Finally, David's in the house. There you go. And Joe is in the house. Good to have you guys. And chat's just delayed tonight as usual. Not sure what's going on, but I did get my second prompter. I took the step-up ring out that I needed because my original prompter by Elgato did not have all the step-up rings in it. And so I sent in a request to Corsair, who now owns Elgato. Started with Elgato, then got to Corsair. And the communication was kind of sketchy. They didn't have any parts or pieces to ship me. This is back in December. Just say hi real good. It's good to have you guys here tonight. U-Step Productions, good to see you. DJ Ware, good to see you in the house as well tonight. So I sent that prompter back, and then as I got it all boxed up, because all I needed, and if you guys were on last week's live stream, I think it was last week's live stream, maybe it was the week before, but I only opened up the one box that had the step-up rings in it. And the Elgato prompter comes with 9 step-up rings, and they start in the 40s and go up to 82 mil. If I remember right, I don't have the specs in front of me. And I received 262 mils instead of a 62 and 67, including all the other step-up rings. Long story short, they sent me a whole prompter box. Now I figured, okay, if that's the way you guys want to do it, you want to ship out me a whole prompter box so I can get one step-up ring out and then send me a return deal, which they did before it ever arrived. Then I would ship it back, and I guess that's fine. Well, I read the fine print yesterday when I was getting ready to get it all packaged up and go to the post office, and in the fine print, it informed me that I would be paying the shipment back to Elgato. So I sent an email yesterday basically sharing my disappointment. Because in reality, it's a big box. It's pretty heavy. And I just sent it United States Postal Service ground. And it was $50.55. So for me to get a 67 mil step-up ring to complete my kit, I've now spent an extra $50.55 according to the receipt. So I did send an email out yesterday. I've been communicating back and forth. Told them I would send them the tracking number when I got it shipped. I hadn't read the fine print, so I'm waiting for a response right now from Elgato. So hopefully I will get that $55 or the $50.55 reimbursed. Now, I counted yesterday. I think I have 13 different Elgato devices in my studio. I'm not going to go through that list tonight. So I included that in my email. Not only do I have that many devices, I've purchased 3 for my son out of my own funds. All of those were paid out of my own funds, either through my business or my personal funds. And so for him, I bought a Stream Deck XL, and you guys know the cost of that. And I bought a Keylight Air for him. And then the following Christmas, I bought him another Keylight Air. That one he said he didn't need, so I think he sent it back and bought something else. But so that's like 15 to 16 different items that I have from Elgato here in the studio. And you guys know I've not probably ever said anything negative about that company. I love their products. Talked a lot about them. People are now sending me, notices that they've purchased prompters, they've purchased things here from my channel. And so I hope you guys will put your karma in with mine and say a prayer so that maybe I will get reimbursed, because that was money that I was saving. I've been saving for a 3D printer. Haven't decided which one I'm going to get, but I'm going to get a 3D printer. So it was part of the money I've been putting aside for a 3D printer. And I just grabbed some of that cash to go down to the post office once I realized that I was going to have to pay for postage. I thought it'd be 15, 20 bucks. I was shocked. I asked her, that's ground. I asked her the other options. They were all more expensive. And so again, because of the size of the box and the fact that it needs to be sent back and be tracked, I was a little frustrated. But that's not what we're talking about tonight. I was just giving people a chance to jump on. Let's see what else we have here. David's in the house. It said, where did you buy this from? Direct from Corsair? No, I bought it. Yeah, I bought it direct through Corsair, got on their waiting list right away. The weird thing is, David, I got on the list and I think I used the wrong credit card. I can't remember exactly. And I wanted to switch it. So I canceled that order. It put me lower on the list. This is like the day it was released. And then I tried to just get the credit card changed. That took me 3 hours to find out that that couldn't be done. And so I just canceled the order according to the support that I got from Corsair. And I was able to just go on their online support. They got a support person instead of a AI, and I was able to communicate with them. And the easiest way was just to cancel the order and reorder. And the only reason I didn't do that right away is I wanted to save my place in line because I was wanting to get mine as soon as possible. But in reality, I did get it back in December. We unboxed it here in the live stream. I've talked about it. I've used it. I have it on right now. I'm looking at the chat in my prompter. I have all the step-up rings. That last step-up ring is for this 100 mil lens right there. The 67 mil is on here. We are going to look at this lens and this step-up ring next week in the live stream. Also, sorry about that, dropped the lid. And this has got a big, for macro primarily to cut the light, any glare. It is a macro lens, 100 millimeter, 2.8. So it's a great lens. It's a prime. It's an L lens by Canon. So it's the nice glass. It's a few generations now. They have newer versions of this lens. But I love it. It's got the ability to do different settings, to get it closer to whatever you're shooting, because it does have macro settings, or you can use it as a traditional full lens. And so it's on full right now. I'm not using it for macro. It's got autofocus. It's also got image stabilization. This is a great lens. And I want to try it out with a teleprompter. Obviously, it's 100 mil, so I'm going to have to be pretty far away from the prompter, and that's what we're going to do next week. But I've been working on this series about the differences between the ATEM Mini, the smaller 4-input lines, the ATEM Mini, the ATEM Mini Pro, the ATEM Mini Pro ISO, the ATEM Mini SDI ISO, and I think there's an SDI Pro as well. And then you have the Extremes, which I did comparisons. I have a new video on the channel where I look at the media players. So if you've wondered about all the different ways that you can use a media player, that video released, I think, 2 days ago, and it's already getting quite a few views on my channel. And so tonight I want to continue that by talking about the keys. You have upstream keys and downstream keys, and that's what I want to talk about tonight. I want to give you some demos of all 4 key types. You have Luma, Chroma, Pattern, and DVE, and we'll talk about how those apply. I'm going to spend most of tonight working from my Extreme, but I do have my ATEM Mini Pro fired up. It's over my shoulder, And you can see this little red truck. That's going to be our green screen test. I have the green screen right here behind it. I literally can touch the green screen right here. And I have lights on the green screen. I have lights on the red truck. I have my 5D Mark III right there behind me. And I think I have a better shot of that. Let's see. There we go. So I have that all set up, and I can get my chair out of the way. And so we're going to look at even the green screen. We're going to mess with the green screen settings on my ATEM Mini Pro. We're going to be in my ATEM Mini Extreme. We might be in both extremes, but I'm not talking about anything that I really need to go to my Extreme number 2. But we are going to be looking at the keys in the Extreme, and we'll look at the single key that I'm using right now to do the green screen effect in the ATEM Mini Pro. So that's kind of where we're headed. Let me finish saying hi to everybody jumping in here in the chat. $1,000 prompter when it's all said and done. No, it wasn't $1,000, $50.55 plus whatever the street price was I paid. I can't wait to buy it from hassle-free return distribution. Wish for Corsair to resolve this for you. Yeah, thank you, David. Joe says, I won't be buying direct from Corsair anytime soon. Well, so it sounds to me like they haven't made too many friends here. So, yeah, and you can do B&H for the win. I do have an associate Amazon Prime account. So anytime someone uses the links here on my channel, they pay the same, but I get a little funds back. That helps me. I use those coupons for new products. I have a $23 coupon. It seems like every time I get a coupon, it's around $23, and I get them like every 6 or 7 weeks, depending on if I'm doing my due diligence and getting my links created. But in reality, then I use that for different things I need in the studio. I'm thinking about getting my shotgun microphone out for live streaming, and I want to mount it to the bar above my head. So I'm probably going to buy a bracket and use that to be able to use my condenser shotgun microphone, because I don't want to really wear my DJI lapel mic anymore when I leave this area or move around. So it'd be nice to have a shotgun microphone catching me as I turn around different places. This is the best sounding mic I have, but that condenser microphone sounds amazing as well, but it will pick up more noise in the background. So we're going to get rocking here in a minute. I just don't want to ignore anybody jumping in the chat. I think the last comment we got there was from David and in the chat. So we will move on here to what we're going to talk about. So I got a lot of things around me tonight. Like I said, I've got the green screen fired up in the background. And again, that is a Elgato product. And I don't even think I included that in my list, or did I? When I sent that email to Elgato yesterday about the $50 I spent. So again, I love the products. I have nothing bad to say about the products I get from Elgato. I just, like I said, that was the only really negative experience I've ever had. And again, I can't really qualify it as negative because they haven't even had a chance to respond. So we are going to give them 100% the benefit of the doubt that they will get that taken care of. Okay. So I think what we'll do tonight is I want to give you just a little introduction of why I'm doing this video. I have talked about the keys here before on the channel. But in reality, I learn more and more about the ATEM product line. I'm learning more and more about how to key correctly. There are new devices to do better Chroma keys now that Blackmagic Design offers. And some of you may have already purchased that product. But I'm using the ATEM Mini and the basic keying capability inside that device, and you operate that device using the settings in the control software. And actually, it's officially called ATEM Software Control. I just call it the control software. If you have the latest firmware, the latest ATEM control software, I think it's like 9.3.1, then you'll get updates for your streaming bridge. If you have one, you'll get updates for some of the ATEMs that you have. And then some of the newer devices, there's even updates in those. And so they have a separate SDI manual from the ACMI manual. So I've been reading through that to try to get some answers on the SDI devices for myself, because I may be getting an Extreme SDI ISO or ATEM Mini SDI. Actually, it's ATEM SDI Extreme ISO, I think is the official name for it. And that would be because I can just hook my HyperDex directly to it, and then I'll have 4 outputs, and I can take the converters that I'm using right now from my HyperDex and then use those for the outputs. And I love the fact that there's 4 outputs. But let's talk a little bit about upstream and downstream keys. And I'm going to bring my laptop up here on the screen. And you can see on my left, you have 2 major columns when you're talking about the switcher. And the control software, you can access different devices up here in File. And I can connect to devices. If I clicked on Connect right now, you're going to get a list right here of the 3 devices I have. And then if I had my streaming bridge, which I'm using tonight, if I had the USB cable plugged in, and it's sitting on my desk somewhere, but I do have my prompter plugged in instead, I could access it and save the file, bring that into my ATEM Mini Pro, and I could then use my streaming bridge. So if I click on the ATEM Mini Pro right now, which is the second device here, and I hit connect, now I'm in my, what's going on my iPhone here? Commercials. If I connect now, you can see I have 4 inputs instead of the 8 in an Extreme. But you still have the top row and the bottom row. When you get into the newer devices that have 2 MEs, they're going to have 4 of these bars. And if it's a 4 ME, you do the math. You're going to go from 4 to 8 of these bars. Top being what's live. So if I cut to any of these channels in my ATEM right now, I would be going live. So camera 1 has my, or input 1 has my Canon 5D Mark III, but I'm not going to use it that way. I'm using it through my key. And so tonight what we're going to do is we're going to focus on the keys. So these are upstream keys on the left of the transition bar. And this is the transmission bar right here. I can transition, and all it's doing is messing up my green screen shot that I have for my background, because it's cutting from the background to my camera 2. And so I'm using my media player background, which is, you can see right here. I've got that picture in the background. And I'm using the key number 1 to bring in a chroma, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But I only have 1 upstream key in a ATEM Mini Pro, and that's what this is right here. You can see what it's called right up here in the very top corner, ATEM Mini Pro. And then you can see the name of the software is ATEM Software Control. And then obviously I could go back to my Extreme. We'll do that in a minute. So I have 1 upstream key and I have 1 downstream key, and they're divided by this transition bar. And you can see your transitions are right here. So you have a cut and a wipe, and you can do a dip transition, a mix transition, a wipe transition, and you could even do a DVE transition. But this is the transition section. This is your upstream key section, and this is your downstream key session, or section. And then you have different inputs depending on what device you have. If you have an Extreme, you're going to see 8 inputs in this row, and you're going to see 2 media players. And you're also going to see Super Source available over here if you own an Extreme, Extreme ISO, and Extreme SDI. So I just want to make that very clear. 1 upstream key in an ATEM Mini or the ATEM Mini Pro or Pro ISO, SDI, all of those have 1 upstream key and 1 downstream key. And again, you can see upstream keys, downstream keys. So just so you know, that's going to be the same on all the devices. You're just going to see more inputs and less inputs depending on where you go. And you're going to see more media players, things like Super Source adding into your inputs, and you're also going to see different keys become available for you. And when you get into the more higher end devices, you're even going to have some frames of video that you can play back built into your media player. The other thing I want to point out, in a new update, ATEM Mini, I don't know which one, the control software, you now have 4 folders on the top. I covered this in one of my latest videos. It used to only be 3 folders. So now I have my media player separated from my HyperDecks. And I don't know if you guys have noticed that change, but that has changed. So HyperDecks, if you own them, are in a separate folder up on top from the media player. And you can access your media player here, or you can access your media player here on the bottom next to the switcher page. So again, this is all the things that I could make live, and you can see in this row they're turning red, and in this row they are green. Now again, you have to go into the settings and make sure that you're using program or preview program settings, because you can actually by default get an ATEM and everything's going to be basically a cut bus. So if you press the button on the front for a input on your ATEM Mini, it's going to just cut to that channel. There is no green and red until you change it in the settings, and I'm not going to cover that. I've covered that in a different video. So again, upstream keys right here, downstream keys next to that. Now, I want to cover these folders up here. We've already talked about the media folder. We've already talked about the HyperDeck folder. But now we're going to talk about the output or the palettes folder, because the palettes are where you're going to find your upstream keys, your color generator, your transitions. And so there are different transition settings you can do right here. You can do a mix, dip, and DVE. The stinger is grayed out because there's no stinger available in this device till you get up into the bigger consoles and the bigger rack-mounted devices. And so you can do dip, mix, wipe down here as well, and you can do them up here as well and switch to those. So if I was to switch to dip down here, you can see the folder changed up here. So you're actually changing the way the transitions work, and that's very similar to the keys. We'll go back to mix, and it'll change to the folder for mix up here. And in each one of these folders, there's options. You can see dip has those options up here. Wipe has those options up here. Lots of options in wipe, and DVE has those options. And this is where you're going to use a stinger. I call it a stinger. In reality, you're just going to be able to do a transition with the graphic in the center of those transitions, and you make those changes and directions right here. And so normally I have mine set to mix, but then if you go up to upstream keys, you have these folders as well. You got Luma, Chroma, pattern, and DVE. And right now you can see that I'm set to Chroma, and I have it set to my Canon 5D Mark III. And that's because I already have my green screen set up. So let's go ahead and reveal that. And that is a still image from my ATEM Mini Pro. And the red truck has been keyed out with a Chroma keyer. And that is being sent to my streaming bridge, and I'm bringing that into my live stream right now. And we'll cover Chroma here in a minute. The first thing I want to talk about is Luma. And so we're going to come back to the ATEM here Pro in a minute. We're going to go over here to my Extreme. So up to File, Connections, and now I'm going to go to ATEM Mini Extreme ISO, hit Connect. And now you're in the device that I'm streaming from right now. So let me get a cup of coffee. And I have it set, key number 1. So up here now, you can see in this top row, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 keys. And in my downstream keys, I have 1, 2. And then there's a list. We'll close all these, transitions, downstream keys. So you can see I have color generators. I have Super Source, which wasn't on my ATEM Mini Pro. And we're not going to talk about Super Source tonight, except for I'm using it right now in these 2 boxes, the box I'm in, the box that's in. And I can do up to 4 boxes or as little as 1 box. And so under Super Source now you have access to 4 keys, where in the ATEM you only had access to 1 because it only has 1 key. Inside those upstream keys, And again, if you don't know the difference between an upstream key and a downstream key, let's just say this much tonight. Upstream keys are left of the transition bar, and downstream keys are right of the transition bar. And the upstream keys are kind of designed to be able to be attached and transition with different inputs over here. And downstream keys are mainly designed just to layer over top. Let me turn my logo off. And then if I go in my downstream key right here, I have my media player 1 assigned. So if I turn it on, now I have my logo on using a downstream key. Again, you can see it's on. And so I can have my media player 1 attached to my upstream key or my downstream key. And so why does it matter? Well, the downstream key is the last layers. So this box I'm in, the background behind my box, this box right there, if I put 2 more boxes on the air, opened up and put something in all of my keys, guess what? The downstream key would cover all of that. So if I need a logo to cover everything, I have 2 downstream keys in my ATEM Mini Extreme ISO. And so they're Luma only. So they only have 1 folder. You can see right here under downstream key, there are no folders. But now if we go back up to my upstream key, so we're gonna leave my logo on in my downstream key for right now, because we're gonna go through the different features on these now. And so I'm gonna go up to my first key. This is key number 1. And again, if I turn the logo off, it's designed right now to bring a Luma key on. And I can tell it's Luma by this folder is lit up right here. So remember when we push these buttons, it changed the folders. There's no buttons on the top here that's gonna change these folders. But if I go on the front of my device right here, and I push my upstream key, watch the folders right here, because there's a button on the front of my ATEM Extreme ISO. And if I push that button, it will automatically default to Chroma, except for right now I have it disabled. It's on the air. Let me try it again. So it defaults to Chroma, and you can see that's a mess because I don't have a Chroma key set up. So the one thing I don't like about Blackmagic Design ATEM Mini line and the ATEM Mini Extreme line is that the upstream key is assigned to do green screen or some kind of Chroma key in, and it's not just set up so that you can use it for whatever folder you have open. It literally has an XML built in, and it literally changes. Again, watch the folder. I'm going to click back to Luma right here, and if I push the button on the front of my ATEM key number 1, it changes to Chroma, and I get that ugly logo because I'm using a logo that needs to be keyed out with a Luma in order for it to be transparent on the bottom. So now if I go back to the Luma key, I can turn that logo on, and that logo is this logo right here in Media Player 1. So you can use your keys to bring your media players on the air. You can use your keys to do green screen work. Again, right now, let's change this to color bars. Turn that off the air. You can use it to do chroma key work, and you can use it to do pattern work, which means I can put a picture inside these different boxes. I can fly it around the screen, and I can use it to do DVE, which is picture in picture. So right now, if I opened up camera 2, which is on the red truck, or camera 1, and I make it live under DVE, and then I turn this on the air, then you're gonna see picture in picture, and I can change the size of that, and I can bring it over, and now I'm using it as a DVE. And again, I could make a box just like this right over top the box I have right now by using the DVE feature. And so if I turn that back off, then it goes back to SuperSource. So I'm literally using the DVE folder, and I've assigned it to camera 1, and I can size it and bring it on the air. And I can put other things in that DVE as well. So if I wanted my media player or my hyperdeck, let's just bring my hyperdeck in there. we'll start playing my intro video here. And I'll bring my HyperDeck on the air here and turn it on. And now I have my intro video playing right now on the air. So again, I can put whatever I want in the DVE as far as the inputs. And again, you can see the choices on Extreme. I could do black in my DVE. I'm not sure why I'd want black. I can even bring in my background, Media Player 2, which has my background in it. So I could bring my background on the air in a box. I could bring key number 1 on the air in a box, just like that. So again, you have Luma, which is mainly designed to do basic black and white, lower thirds, logos, and things like that, or bringing something on the air. So let's go into Luma now, and let's assign Luma key to my camera 1, and then I'll bring it on the air. And there you go. You can see it's all messed up because it needs to be adjusted. I need to figure out what I'm putting in the key line. And so mainly, and we're not going to go that deeply into how you would use the Luma with all the other inputs. Mainly, most people are going to use the Luma key to put graphics on the air, and they're going to have them in one of their keys transitioning with whatever device they have on or whoever they have on the air. So if I wanted this key right here, my logo, to stay on the air only when I'm in this view, so I will make camera 2 live. Actually, let's do it this way. Let's cut back to super source. Let's put it in preview down here. And then once this is on, I've tied it to this look. Now if I hit auto transition, the logo goes off because I have tied it to this view. So these Upstream keys can be tied directly to a single input, or you can leave them on all the time. So if I turn this off and make the same transition, the logo stays on the air. Now also, these logos below here can be pre-multiplied. And the reason for a pre-multiplied key, and I put some links in the description below, because this is really important. If you want to have a graphic with transparency where my shirt would be showing through it, and I have a sample of a transparent graphic here, so I will drop it on the air. So that graphic right there has transparency, and that is a pre-multiplied graphic. And the way you do that, the easiest way to do it, is use the plugin in Photoshop that automatically gets installed when you bring in, you download the ATEM control software, and to the latest version, then it automatically installs a plugin in your Photoshop, and then you can export any graphic that you want with a pre-multiplied key. And what that is basically, you could do a transparent PNG, which is what we're used to if we want a graphic that has nothing anyplace else but right in this area. So everything here is transparent, so I'm showing through. So this graphic on the air, off the air, I show through. But if I took a non-transparent graphic and put it on the air, nothing shows through. The only way to get anything to show through that would be I would have to cut a hole in it in Photoshop, make that transparent, and then bring it on the air. So that graphic has no transparency, but this logo I have on the air does. So when I turn it on using Luma key, it has transparency. So now if we go back over to me and my laptop, under Luma key here, under key 1, you can see the pre-multiplied button. You can see it goes crazy when I turn it on now, because this graphic that I have below me is not pre-multiplied. Anytime I hit the macro to go to me and my laptop, it pops in my logo. So we're going to switch that out right now to the other logo. So now we have this crazy transparent logo down there. In fact, it's actually better if I have just me on the screen, but I want to show you the settings. If I turn pre-multiplied on now, it only clears up the graphic. So how do I illustrate that? Let's turn flying key on. Let's bring this graphic in closer. I'm just making it bigger and bigger using the flying key feature. And so if I turn pre-multiplied off now, you can't see a major change, but I'm going to put just me on the screen. So here we go with that graphic. And now let's make it a little bigger. You can see that there's transparency in it. And right now, pre-multiplied is off. So watch the graphic very closely. Let's make it even bigger. There we go. And so now I'm going to turn pre-multiplied on. Watch the graphic very closely. And now pre-multiplied off. Pre-multiplied on. You can see that there's more clear transparency behind it. That's pre-multiplied on, and this is pre-multiplied off. And it's very subtle, but what it does is it cleans up all the transparency, and basically it's creating an alpha channel when you export it. And instead of going from a gradient from like black to clear, like transparent, it's actually creating a gradient that goes from black to white, or the opposite, white to black. And it's all part of how alpha channels are made. And what that really is designed to do is make sure that this graphic does not change the color of my shirt, because you're laying something over my shirt. So you want to make sure, just like a hyperdeck has a alpha channel and a key channel, you want to make sure the key is clearing out the background so that you don't change any colors when you're flying a logo across the screen. And again, if I set this to A and then zoom this back up here and set that to B, I can now fly this from full to A to B. And because that's not a video graphic, and because I have pre-multiplied on, it makes it crisper on the screen than it would if it did not have pre-multiplied on, or if I hadn't created it as a pre-multiplied graphic. So let's go back to me and a laptop, and that logo is going to go away. And let me just demonstrate this. Turn that off. Should have gone away, but it did not. So let me drop my logo back in there. We've gone crazy here. Pre-multiplied off. And let's fly my graphic to full. And so now what I want to do is I want to bring in Photoshop here. I apologize, I am talking a lot. And welcome back, Hank. I see you in the chat. So we're going to open up Photoshop here. Let's open up this lower thirds folder, and you can see this is a transparent background. I created a new file under File, New. I chose Film and 1920 by 1080p. I turned on transparency down here. You can see it says white. You turn on transparent right here, and then you can name the file right here. And so you start with a transparent background, the shape of a 1080 by 7 or 1920 by 1080 frame, because that's what I'm using for a live stream. I'm using HD, which is 1920 by 1080. And so we'll close that. So I have that open, and I have this graphic down here, and I've created transparency. And I'm not going to go into the details. We don't have time tonight to how to create these graphics. But if you go in and do a tutorial in Photoshop, You can create a regular graphic lower thirds using this feature. But once you get the logo designed, and if you add transparency to it, all you have to do is go up here to File, go to Export, and down on the bottom here, if you've installed Photoshop and then the control software, you have this choice to ATEM Switcher Media Pool. So I can click on this, and of course, my ATEM Mini has to be on the same network with my laptop for them to communicate. I have this file. It tells me where my ATEM is. I can click on Pre Multilied Alpha right here. You want to have that highlighted. I can go down here and choose which box I want to put it in inside my media player. And I can even decide if I want to assign it to media player 1 or 2, or if you have a device that has 4 media players, like some of the newer devices that have been released the last year and a half, then you could send this graphic to any one of those media players. What does that mean? That means that if we go back to the control software, that I can drop that graphic right in my media player and make it live. So let's make one of these folders available. So we have 19 and 20 available. So let's go back to Photoshop. And you can see I have my graphic in the top right, and I have my background on the bottom right in Media Player 2. So Media Player 1, Media Player 2. In the ATEM Extreme line, you have 2 media players. So I'm going to go back to Photoshop. I'm going to go ahead and assign that. It says that 19 and 20 are empty. So I'm going to go ahead and assign it to 19. And I'm going to say Export. I've already clicked on Pre Multilied Alpha. Now you can create these. I created a link below to a channel that shows you how to, Photo Joseph shows you how to create a lower thirds with an alpha channel. It's a lot of steps, but it's a lot faster if you use the plugin built into Photoshop when you download the software from Blackmagic Design. And that's true for Mac. It's true for PC. You just have to have Photoshop. And then if you don't have Photoshop, then you're going to have to create a alpha channel graphic on your own using whatever graphic design software you're using. And Photo Joseph in the link in the description below explains how you can do that if you don't have Photoshop or you're not using the plugin. So I have pre-multiplied on, slot 19 is empty. I have this graphic. We know we deleted what was in slot 19. I'm going to hit export. Now I'm going to bring up my control software, and now you can see box 19 has that graphic in it, and I can make it live. But let's have even more fun here. Let's go back into Photoshop. Let's hit export again. File, export, down here to ATEM Switcher Media Pool. And this time, instead of box 19, I'm going to set it to box 20. But I'm also going to send it to Media Player 1. Now, remember, Media Player 1 is live. So let's watch what happens when I send it to that media player. Hit export, and guess what? It just changed the graphic below me. Now, I don't have pre-multiplied on in my key, so let's bring my key up. I just exported a pre-multiplied graphic, but if you look at the key, pre-multiplied is not on, so I can mess with the clip and the transparency settings right there, but I'm just going to turn pre-multiplied on because it's a pre-multiplied graphic, and now the graphic below me has been exported from Photoshop as a pre-multiplied graphic. I have pre-multiplied on over in my Upstream key number 1. I have my Upstream key number 1 assigned to media player, right? Fill source, media player, key source, media player, key. And now that graphic is being interpreted with the pre-multiplied settings. And if I was to fly it to A, you can see the difference as I turn pre-multiplied on and off. It's very subtle, but trust me, if you freeze frame it and watch it later, pre-multiplied on, pre-multiplied off, pre-multiplied on. And again, if I put myself behind it, pre-multiplied is on, pre-multiplied is off, pre-multiplied is on. And in this view, you can see a drastic change in between. So that's why it's important to understand alpha channels built into your graphics, how you create them. You can go into Photoshop, create your own lower thirds, export them, and then you can use them to bring them on the air. And if they are pre-multiplied, you turn pre-multiplied on. If it's just a transparent PNG like this one, if I drop this in, the whole screen's going to go white because it doesn't have an alpha channel. And so in order to fix that, I've got to turn pre-multiplied off. And that is right here, pre-multiplied on, pre-multiplied off. So if you ever see this, it's because you have a graphic in your media player assigned to that key, and it does not have an alpha channel. So it's going to white out the whole screen because it doesn't, your key does not know how to read it as an alpha graphic. So you have to have pre-multiplied off. And then I'll fly this back to the regular location. And then you got to adjust the clip settings and the gain settings to get that graphic looking right. And hopefully I won't get these too messed up because that affects everything when I'm live. So I'll just go back to me and a logo, and that will reset everything, including the key settings. So again, each key has 4 folders. The first folder is Luma. You use Luma mainly to bring on graphics like this or transparent graphics. You also have Luma available in your downstream keys. So if you click down here to downstream keys, there's 2 of them. You get to them by scrolling this bar on the right up and down. And this is just a Luma key. So you can see right here, it has pre-multiplied as well. It has the ability to mask it, which is like cropping it. And you can bring in a Luma graphic right here. And again, if I turn it off in my upstream key right here and on in my downstream key, and if I turn pre-multiplied on, again, it's going to white out the screen because that graphic does not have a alpha channel. Let's bring in an alpha channel graphic into that box. You can see it's down below me now. And I will then turn pre-multiplied on over here on the right. And now that graphic below me that says Live Trinity Productions, that has transparency behind it. It has a gradient that goes from opaque black to clear, transparent. It has all been assigned an alpha channel, and now it displays very crisp, very clear on my screen. And that thing can literally, in the upstream key, can be flying around the screen, and it's going to have a nice look in flying key because it has pre-multiplied on, and I can fly that around the screen using my flying key feature, which is really cool. So you can create macros, and so you can actually use your upstream key with a Luma key on, pre-multiplied or a not pre-multiplied graphic, and you can still use the flying key features to fly it around the screen. And the way you do that is you just create the location you want the logo using these 4 boxes right here. The top box is position, left and right. The right box is up and down. The bottom left box zooms in and out. And then you have another position icon right here, which is changing not only the size, but the position on the screen. And then you can hit set A right here, and it programs that location in. So we're going to go ahead and make this set B. And now I will fly it from A to my new B location, and then back to the full location, which is where the logo is supposed to be. So Luma can go in downstream keys and upstream keys, but when we go to the downstream key here, let's turn that off. Let's turn the pre-multiplied off. My downstream key. In the downstream key, drop my logo back in there. turn that on the air. In the DownStream key right here, you can see there is no flying features. I cannot fly that key around. I can pre-multiply it, I can mask it, but there is no flying key features. So in the first box in your Upstream keys, you have Luma, and you can fly them around the screen in your Upstream keys, but you can't fly those Luma graphics around the screen in your DownStream keys. So if you just want a graphic sitting there on the screen, then honestly, that's the best place to have it in your DownStream key. Turn pre-multiplied off in my DownStream key. And that's the best place to use your graphics on the screen, because you don't want to take up your Upstream keys if you want to do something else with your other media player. And if you have the nicer rack-mounted devices, you'll have up to 4 media players in a 4ME, and that's really cool, because then you could use those in 4 keys, and you could have one be your lower thirds in your DownStream key. You could have another graphic as a bug in the top right corner that you could put in different positions. You could have another one be a subscribe logo in key number 2 on the bottom. You could have another one be a DVE picture-in-picture. You could have another one be a DVE because you have 2 DVEs with your extreme line, and you have multiple DVEs when you get in the bigger lines. So that's a look at the Upstream key. That's a look at graphics from Photoshop using the export feature that comes as a plugin when you download the software control right up. How do I point up there? ATEM software control. It automatically goes in and makes those changes in Photoshop on your computer, your Mac, or your PC, and then you can just export from Photoshop those graphics right here using File, Export, and then you go down here to ATEM, switch your media pool. As long as you're networked, you should be okay. And if you don't see your ATEM in there, you can actually put in your IP address. And how do you find your IP address? Let's go back to my control software. You would just click on File, Connections. Which one of these do you want to find? There's my ATEM Mini Pro. This is the one I'm using right now. And I could just go on ATEM Setup. And I don't think that'll open up while I'm on the air on that screen. And then you could find the IP address and you would be set to go. There we go. Click on this icon and there is my IP address. And so I would be able to access that by copying that IP address into this spot on the screen. Let's disconnect from that. Go back to Photoshop. So again, I would just pop that IP address in right there and then click export. So I can go to any slot on my computer with this drop down, any one of those 20 slots, and I can go into a media player directly. I can make a pre-multiplied alpha graphic, or I can make one that doesn't need a pre-multiplied. So if it's just black and white, so you have a black logo over another black logo, no transparency, you don't need to export it with an alpha channel, because the alpha channel, again, is designed to deal with the transparencies. It's another algorithm. It adds more bit depth, and it gives you the ability to have nice, smooth transparencies going from a solid color, slowly going to a transparent color. That's really where those alpha channels help. And they keep it from changing the graphic behind it. So it's not going to change the color in that transparent area either, because it's going to make sure that it doesn't do that. So again, mainly alpha channels work the best when you're doing layered graphics in Photoshop. So you have 5 layers and you're laying layers over each other and you don't want the colors to shift or change. You would add alpha layers to every one of those colors if you're layering your graphics. Back in the old days, I used to cut out graphics and paste them on a paste board. And then when it was all done, that would be our design. Now you can do all those layers inside Photoshop, inside Illustrator, inside all of the other software that gives you the ability to layer graphics. But you're also doing a type of layering when you're doing video production, because I'm a layer. Behind me is my let's just play with this. Back behind me is, in my media player, is my background. So if I change it to this picture of Dominic and I, now I have that picture behind me. So we're working with layers inside the control software as well. So understanding how the alpha channels work in pre-multiplied graphics is super important. Okay, so let's go back to me and a logo, and let's get back into the chat here before we move on to Chroma keying. So let's see here. Cruise down through here. Let's go chat on the air here. Sorry about that. That's weird. An ad rolled and the video went back 7 minutes. That's a glitch. It's good to have you in the house tonight, David. I saw that you popped in. I think I've said hi to everybody else. Let's see. Any update on Studio B? I'll come back to that. Jay also said, I always recommend pre-multiplied and use key and fill. Yeah, I totally agree. The advantage of that is crisper graphics. But again, if it doesn't have any transparency, you're going to be able to get away with it. But you will have less issues if you have pre-multiplied on by mistake. So let's illustrate that. We know that my logo that's on the screen right now is not designed to be a pre-multiplied. So again, if I turn pre-multiplied on my Upstream key by mistake, I get that ugly look. But if I drop this other graphic that we exported together tonight, and I drop it on the bottom, and now I'll show you guys this again. I'll turn pre-multiplied on. Okay, that was freaky. So let's try this one right here. Oh, it didn't change. Weird. I hit my my key. So it doesn't do that crazy thing when I turn pre-multiplied on and I got pre-multiplied on. Now you can see me turning it on and off there, clear over on the right under the Upstream key #1. And now it's off again, on again. So that's probably the biggest reason why I'd recommend to go ahead and export all your graphics with a alpha channel, even if they're as simple as my logo. Because many, many times while I have been live, we've had this crazy thing happen because some macro I had set this to pre-multiplied, and I get this look when I accidentally cut back to it and I don't turn pre-multiplied off. And that won't happen if they are all pre-multiplied graphics. So, okay, so that's good comments. I appreciate that. Thank you for that. We'll talk about Studio B here in a little bit. Let me get caught up. Let's see, chat on the air. So I should ask my sales guy at EOS if he sells Elgato. He sells Blackmagic cheaper than anyone else. Well, that's pretty cool. So that's very interesting. I wonder how all of us can get access to Blackmagic device stuff for cheaper. Okay, I'm not sure what you mean there, David. I'm lost with that. Press end on your keyboard if you are watching on a computer. That must be a quick link. And then Hank says, hi, Keith and gang, just got home. Checking back in. It's good to have you here. Okay, Studio B, I am saving money. Stan and I are contemplating, talking about Studio B. It's a large project. So mostly what I'm doing right now is research. And I probably research something every week. Like right now, I'm looking at 3D printers because I'm going to do some brackets in my studio. I'm going to do other things in my studio with Dominic's channel. So we're gonna print some small figures and paint them. And I'm also gonna design some brackets. I would like to make some stands for the HyperDeck so they tilt up. Aaron Precky never chose to do that. So that's going to happen, and I will need a 3D printer to do that. I doubt I'll go resin. Who knows? I probably will just not go resin and make all my designs. And then if I need them to be professionally printed, then I will send them off to someone who will print them if resin decides to go away. It looks too difficult to work with, and I'm just not interested. So that's the only update I have right now. I'm on Studio B. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how my mouse is making it on the screen. It will obviously make it on the screen when I'm inside my desktop, because that box right there is my laptop. You guys are seeing in the control software. Yeah, I moved my chairs around because we do have a key set up. It seems to be off right now, so we'll have to go over and find out what happened. I doubt that camera timed off, but I do not have anything on my background. We're gonna look at Chroma here in a minute. Not producing Shannon's birthing podcast anymore. Yeah, I am doing her podcast, Tony, but her assistant moved to Idaho. So she has her old house is an Airbnb, and so she comes into town, and so we've been producing them when she comes into town. So rather it being like one a month, now it's like one or two a quarter. And so we just released one about a month ago, the Christmas podcast. And so I still will be producing that podcast. I'm not sure if I'll move that to Studio A or B. And if I'm in transition, we'll just go back to the dining room table. It's just a lot more work to do it on the dining room table because I got to move lights in there, and I have lights set up in here in the studio all the time. Yeah, I'm sure I spelled journey wrong. Thanks for that, Joe. What if he wanted to go on a journey? Laugh out loud. Okay, heckle the host as usual. I appreciate it. And for that, chat off the air, and I'm going to take a sip. Okay, back to me and a logo. So I'm going to go into my, connect to my ATEM Mini Pro. And I want to look at this key. DVE. How did all this get set back to, see, we want to be a Chroma key. Canon 5D Mark III. Okay, so this is my Upstream key number 1 in my ATEM Mini Pro. I will prove it to you, me and a laptop. And so we're going to go to my ATEM Mini Pro for this demo. I am in Chroma in key number 1. This is key number 1, on the air, off the air, on the air, off the air. And if I go to Super Source, right now I have my laptop in Super Source, but I could change that here in a minute, and we'll talk about this key and we'll play with the settings. But right now I want you to see the setup. So again, I'll just cut back and forth to this. So this is the key we're working on. And so you can see the settings. I have my Canon 5D Mark III on it, and we're going to show you that camera here real quick. We'll break this setup down. So let's get this camera live again. So there is what you guys are looking at when I bring channel 4 on the screen. So that's it keyed out, green screen behind the truck. The truck is on a table in my studio. The table and the green screen is lit, but this is what it looks like in the studio. You got the green screen right here. Let's see if I can get my chair out. You got the green screen right here, and you got the truck, and you got my 5D Mark III on the counter. And if we cut back over here, that's what the key looks like. And I can bring my graphic on and off the air. So I can bring that off the air, and the graphic is in my other software. So we'll take that graphic off the air in a minute. And so if you come back to me, then there I am. And my logo is, sorry about that. There I am. My logo is off. But I'm literally cutting between my ATEM Mini Pro and my ATEM Extreme ISO because I'm bringing that shot of the green screen in through my streaming bridge. And the reason I'm doing that is just easier for me to run a cat cable to my ATEM Mini Pro and then send the signal from the ATEM Mini Pro to my streaming bridge. And my streaming bridge is already hooked into my studio, into my Extreme ISO. And so I'm just bringing the Canon 5D Mark III in that way rather than bringing it in directly through a big, long HDMI cable. So let's look at the settings about how this happens here. So in the green screen Chroma key page, and it doesn't have to be just green screen, it could be blue screen. But remember, if you have blue in your shirt and you put a blue screen behind you, or if you have blue eyes and then you take out all the blue color behind it, you might be losing some of the blue in your eyes and the blue in your shirt. So because green is so not used a lot, I mean, you might have a nice green shirt, you might be wearing camouflage on a show, and so you may need to use a blue screen. But again, it's designed to key out the color behind you. So right now we'll turn it off. And when it's off, you can click on this Chroma key sample right here, this little button, and you can see I'm not in Luma key anymore. I'm in Chroma key. I'm in my ATEM Mini Pro. My Canon 5D Mark III is coming into channel 1. I don't need to have channel 1 live, because if you go over here, you can see I've assigned channel 1, my Canon 5D Mark III, to my key number 1, and I can bring it on and off the air by turning it on right here. And right now, if I cut to that channel, you can see that it's there. Now it's not. Now it's there because I have the Batcave behind it. And I can put other still images behind it. I can put my regular background behind it. So if I turn the key off, if I cut to it again and I turn the key off, you can see it's just my black background. But the reason you have a Chroma key is because you want to put another view behind it. So I could put a video behind it. I could put the ocean behind it because I have a hyperdeck. So I could assign my hyperdeck to the background, and then I could key out the truck and put it in front of the ocean flowing in the back. So you can use a Chroma key to remove all the color behind the red truck, and then you can put whatever image you want behind it. So, but the way you do a Chroma key is that you have to sample the background. So again, we cut to channel 1. You can see a green screen back here. So you got to decide where you're going to sample that green screen. So we're going to turn that key off the air. I'm going to click on Chroma sample. And then you can see I sampled the top right. And if I sample the top left and then turn it on and cut to it, put my other background behind it. Let's just put this one behind it for right now. Cut to channel 4. So again, I can drop whatever background I want. This is an image of me doing a commercial. This is my studio, even though it doesn't cover the full screen. Now it looks like it's behind my desk. I can do any of these graphics. I just thought this is the coolest looking one tonight. So I put that behind the graphic, so it looks like that red truck is inside the Batcave. So again, the settings for your green screen is right here. So again, when it's off, you can sample, and it shows you what you're sampling. You can change the sample size, this right here. And then once you decide where your sample is going to be taken from, you even can see it in the top left. So want to get a good close area of the green, and then I want to turn that on, and I just check it on my screen. You guys can see that here. So turning that on, and it looks pretty good just like that. So we'll leave it, and we'll cut back to this. And then you have different foreground settings. We're not going to go too deep into these. You've got edge settings. You've got spill. That controls the green edges around your body if you're on camera, and that's way news reporters make it for sports and things like that, or weather reports are all done on green screens or blue screens. And so, and you can buy a more expensive keyer from Blackmagic Design, or you can just use the keyer built in to your ATEM Mini or your ATEM Mini Extreme or your 2ME, your 4ME, or Constellation HD, whatever you have in your studio. You can use the key built into that, or you can buy a key for each camera in your studio. And when you buy those, you're going to go from your camera to that device, from that device into one of your switchers, and then you would key it inside the device where we're keying everything inside the ATEM control software. So it's not perfect. It's not a perfect keyer. You can get a way better key if you buy a keying device, but Chroma Key lets us be able to make these nice keys, and then we can drop different backgrounds behind them, or we could even make it a video. So I have a video of Dominic and I here. Let's put a video behind me. Let's see if this is going to work. Maybe not. Oh, it's in another device. I take that back. I can't use that right now because I don't have it plugged into the Blackmagic Media Player 1. Chroma on. I lost my key here. What did I do? Let's go back to me and a logo and let me figure this out. What did I do? We're on Chroma. Canon 5D Mark III, and now the key is back. Yeah, I can't put a video behind it because I just realized that my Blackmagic Design does not have a video behind it. So, but if I did have my HyperDeck plugged in, or if I had my laptop plugged into my ATEM Mini Pro, then I could just simply go over here to the settings, and I would then put whatever input my player was coming into, I would put it in the background image. So again, right now, my media player is the background. I would make that other device the background. So let's just say it was black, and then I would put that behind it. And so whatever's behind it up here in this column is going to roll. And right now I'm using my media player 1 as the background, so you get this look. But if I was using my color bars as the background, you would get that look. And if I was using the 5D Mark III, I would get just the green screen. So again, right now we're using the media player as a background, so that's step number 1. If you want to use one of these as your backgrounds, if you wanted to use a HyperDeck, you would plug it into one of these 3 inputs, and you would use it as the background. And I don't have anything plugged in. And then you would hit play, and if it was playing the ocean, that would be the background for the red truck instead of the Batcave. So that's how you use the Luma key. So now let's switch over to pattern, and let's bring pattern on the air here. Get rid of the softness, and now let's bring pattern on the air. Now let's not do it in my DownStream key. Let's go back to Chroma. Let's just leave this like it is, and let's switch back over to my control software for my Extreme ISO. And then let's switch over to pattern in key number 1, and there I am. So why am I in this little window right here, super source, and this big circle in the middle? It's because I have key number 1 on the air. You can see it's off the air now. I chose the circle. I have the softness setting to 0. If I crank that up and turn it on, it softens the edges around the circle. Now, if I don't want this to be in the middle, I go down and turn on flying key. Down here, you can see it on the far right. And once I have flying key on, we'll just bring this down. I can size this I can put myself on the bottom right. And I can use these different patterns. But again, I'm in the center of the frame, and that's why I fit in the middle. If I was to use the diamond, I'm still in the middle, and I could change the size of the diamond. You can see I'm using the controls right above me, right above my head here in the diamond. I can change the softness of the edges. I can change the size of the diamond, but you can see I stay the same size. If I go into Flying Key and make it smaller, it makes me smaller. And now I could bring the diamond up in size, and it just shows more of me until you see the whole frame. So what this is doing is just putting a crop, the type of crop I choose, on top of the image. So I can do a side of it. I can do the bars, up and down bars. I can do all these little tiny boxes. I can do a square in the middle and it doesn't quite fit me. Or I can use the circle. So the cool thing about pattern is you can put yourself in the pattern, and because the Upstream keys all have Flying Key features, you can put it anywhere, any size on the screen, and I can set A, I can go here and fly it over to this side and make it a little bigger on this side and hit set B. So now I go to full screen, that location by hitting set B, location B, and run to B. So right down here is what I'm doing is I'm copying the different positions. I can copy 2 different locations, and then I can play them right below it. Full is always going to be full screen, and the other 2 are whatever you program them at. So the Flying Key feature using pattern lets me take these and fly them around the screen, and I can choose whatever pattern fits me. And again, this is going to just show part of my head, and all of these I can fly around the screen using the Flying Key feature, which I think is really cool. So that's a look at pattern. One more to go, and we've already touched on this. So we're going to turn this key off the air. We're going to scroll back up here, and we're going to shift over to DVE now. And DVE, digital video effects, is the ability to take a input. So I could change this to my media player. Let's make it media player 2 right now, which is just the same background I have. Actually, let's make it more fun. Let's make sure that camera's on. We're going to go to my Canon 5D Mark IV, and we're going to bring that key now back on the air again. And now you can see it's a little DVE. Again, I can fly that sucker around the screen by changing sizes and locations using the Flying Key. Actually, in DVE, you don't have Flying Key. I apologize. DVE is you're going to have to just change the location and the size using this, and then you could program a macro to put it in those locations. So I can move these wherever you want. Now, if you push the buttons on the front of your ATEM, they default to a certain size. So if I do that right now, you're going to get a little tiny box, and I can push this around the screen to these different locations. I can even bring a 2 box on the screen using that, and I can turn it off on the front of my ATEM. So I can turn it on, and I could pop that around the screen depending on what I have in it. And I actually, in my Extreme, I have a matrix on the top where I could change what input is going into some of these devices, and I can turn the DVD off. So the digital video effect is designed for you to crop, to put whatever device you want in that. I can put me in it. So now I'm going to be on the air twice, and I can move again this around the screen. I could also use the buttons on the front of my ATEM and move that around the screen. And I could even bring a 2 box in showing me and my keyed out graphic from my ATEM Mini Pro. So there you go. You have 4 Upstream keys, and You can use those as Luma, Chroma, Luma again, basic graphics, pre-multiplied with an alpha channel or not. And you could use transparent PNGs. You've seen me do slideshows on the live stream where I drop pictures over top of me using the same logo. So you can do it that way. And this is actually using my UpStream Key 1 and UpStream Key 2 when I have this view. If I turn it off, they go off, but you can watch them flash up on the screen. I'm gonna turn it on again. And if I could move those off, I'll move it out. You can see it's using my UpStream Key 1 to do this graphic around the screen. And you just have more locations of where you can put that graphic. So I do love that it has this one default right there on the Extreme. That's different than the ATEM Mini. The Mini does not have this one default location, so I can have one box and then I could bring my guest on the air. So that's really cool. And if I turn Super Source off and made my media player to my background, then I could bring me and a guest on using my DVEs, and I can do it right from the front of my ATEM Mini as long as I have this box assigned to me and that box assigned to my guest. And then I can bring that person off and on the air just by pushing the front of my device. And then if I want to turn off that DownStream Key or that UpStream Key DVE, I can just turn a button on the front of my ATEM off. So I love the fact that it has that extra location on the front of the device so that I literally can bring a good sized box on the air and a 2 box just by touching the front of the device. So we'll turn those off the air. We'll go back to my logo, which is loaded. We're going to go back to me and my laptop. I got a DVE on the air. So let's go back to Luma. And now I have Super Source with my graphic right there. We'll fly it to full. And now my graphic is in the regular location where it's supposed to be. So the cool thing about the Blackmagic Design devices is they have upstream keys and downstream keys. You can use them for simply having a logo stay right there. You could use it to fly that logo if you wanted to around the screen. So I could fly that logo around the screen if I wanted to, or just keep it in the full position. I can go to Chroma key and use that. If I had that Chroma key set up here in the studio, I can use pattern, and now I can bring me in on the air through the pattern. So I can bring myself in picture in picture, just like that, which is really cool. I can put myself in a diamond, which is really cool. So I can have these on the air on top of my Super Source, which is really cool. And then I can go into DVE and bring different devices on the air, just like this, the same thing. And I can have these little boxes on the air with me. And now you can see I have a little box right below me right there. So Luma, Chroma, pattern, and DVE. Now, we've already covered downstream keys, but we'll just do it real quickly. I can bring my logo on through my downstream key. Downstream keys are located right here in the folder, downstream keys. There's only one folder, but if you have an Extreme, there's 2 downstream keys in it. And if you look at the downstream keys, my first downstream key is assigned to my logo, and my second downstream key is also assigned to my logo. But for right now, I will assign it to my 5D Mark IV. And now we'll bring that on the air, and you can see just a sliver right now of my green screen. And that's because that's where it is located. And I can mask it, but in reality, I don't have the control to fly it around the screen. So the best way to use your downstream keys is for full-size images. So we're going to assign this back to, let's see, let's go that way and this way. Let's try this again and bring it on the air. Yeah, you can see it just is a disaster. Let's go pre-multiplied, bring it on the air. So if this was my hyperdeck, I could bring it on the air real easily. In fact, let's just make it my hyperdeck. Let's go hyperdeck, fill, hyperdeck key, bring it on the air. And there is my hyperdeck. And I'll turn pre-multiplied off. And downstream keys and upstream keys are available for you to use and put graphics on the air. And again, I mainly use my downstream keys to bring on graphics if I just want them to stay on the whole time. So bring this graphic on and leave it there. And that means that I'm using my upstream keys for other things like picture-in-picture. I can use them. Like right now, I can bring chat on the air. And you can see chat right there with Joe's Laugh Out Loud. So are you planning to design and sell your 3D designs and printed items? I might. We'll see. Aaron Precky does that on his channel. If I find something that's very popular and people want it, then I might find a distributor or maybe associate something with Aaron Precky and get a small cut and give him the designs and have him sell them. We'll see. Joe says he heckles with love. I know that. So, fun time. That's cool. Yeah. And so, OBS has the ability now, through a Macintosh, if I remember right, correct me if that's not right, Jay. You can come out of OBS now through a Macintosh, and I don't have a Mac in my studio, and you can use a Decklink Duo card. And if you don't know what a Decklink Duo card is, let me cut back to me and a logo, and I will go into Blackmagic Designs page here real quick. Let's see. We'll just go to B&H Photo here. That's the fastest way to get this on the screen. That way you guys will see price and everything. So this is a Decklink Duo card, and they have other Decklinks. A bunch of different cards are available by Blackmagic Design. But most people are buying one or two of these. Joe just built a box, and he has two of these in his new box. Pretty cool. Go check out Joe's channel. Joe, go ahead and put the name of your channel again in the descriptions for me. And so you can assign these SDIs in or out. And one of them's referenced, the other four are inputs or outputs. So you build a box or you put one of these cards in your Mac or your PC, and then you could use OBS in your PC or your Macintosh, and then you could send it out. The problem is you can't use it for a PC to do alpha and key or fill and key in OBS, but it is now available, and a lot of the guys here on the channel are starting to use that feature. In fact, Adam Tao and I were conversing this week, and he's doing a brand new build in his studio. I'm not going to tell you all the things he has, but hopefully pretty soon on his channel, he'll be talking about what he's building. So it seems like a lot of the people that I'm connected with are going to 2MEs or 4MEs. Or constellations, whatever they're going to. Some of them are even getting matrices from Blackmagic Design. Can't think of what they're called right now. So, and I don't know when I'm going to do that. What a lot of people don't realize that because I have an Extreme and ISO 1 and 2, I have 4 keys in my Extreme ISO 1. So let's say I wanted to get all my guests in streaming bridges coming into my Extreme number 1. I could put them in, I could put 4 people in a super source, bring that one channel on the air, and still have my super source for everything else in my studio when I'm live. So rather than creating macros, so there's positives and negatives to the way I'm doing things. Obviously, it's a lot cleaner if you have a 2ME. I also have my ATEM Mini Pro, so I could be in Studio B right now, and instead of the truck, it could be me in front of a green screen, and then I could come back into Studio A and be right here in front of you. So I'm playing with multiple devices because eventually I'm gonna have multiple rooms. My wife has been building a dollhouse, so I've even been playing around with the idea of setting up the ATEM in her room. My main switch is right there in the closet, so it'd be really easy for me to plug in to my main switch. Have my ATEM Mini Pro in the bedroom next to us, which used to be my son Bryson's bedroom. He's moved out now, he's grown up. And so now we're empty nesters except for our dog, Zoe. So it's fun to do all these things and have the ability with a streaming bridge and a network in my house. I can go from different rooms to different rooms. And so that would actually be Studio C, because she just does her dollhouse work in there. And I think it would be really cool to have her in the studio, talk about her dollhouse, and then have her transition and do a walkthrough in her dollhouse room with a close-up camera so that you guys could see it from the bird's eye perspective. And that dollhouse is high tech. We will do a video here pretty soon, and that would be really cool. So, okay. So let's catch up here in the chat, chat on the air. I don't know about Mac because I use Windows. So are you able to use those two channels in a PC, Jay? My understanding was it was Mac, OBS, ISO. Adam Tao told me it's Mac specific, but maybe that's not true. I don't know. Key and Phil from OBS using a Decklink Duo card in a PC build, or a box. I don't know how that works. So I have a Decklink Duo card and we'll be setting up Key and Phil too. Wow. So David has a Decklink card from OBS. Joe has a Decklink Duo card and an external Sonnet enclosure that I'm using for Zoom ISO. But does that come into a Mac or does it come into a PC? Because that Sonnet enclosure comes in, right? Thunderbolt into a PC or a Mac. Help me out here. Jay uses a Matrix Video Hub. Yeah, Matrix, that's what a lot of guys are buying. And the Video Hub is so that you can have a bunch of inputs come in the back of it and then a bunch of outputs coming out of the back of it. And then you can assign any of the inputs to any one of the outputs. And Blackmagic Design makes those. They have a 40 by 40 now that came out this last year, and even higher tech than before. Maybe it's bigger than that. What is their new hub? Blackmagic Design. I'm having a memory here. Video Hub. I'll let you guys see what I'm doing here. So here's all the new devices. You can see you have the new television studio, HD8, HD8 ISO. The 4K 8 does not ISO record. You have the ATEM microphone converter that came out when these devices came out. That lets you do more MADI microphones into the back, and you can daisy chain those. You have the ATEM 1ME Constellation that does not have super source. None of these Next devices record. So you have the ATEM Mini, the ATEM 1ME, 2ME. Everybody seems to be buying either the 2ME or the 4ME. I would not invest in an ATEM 1ME Constellation because it does not have super source. You can do the 4ME HD or 4ME 4K. I probably, if I ever went to a ATEM 4 ME, I would buy the 4K. You can see it cost me $9,000. So I would probably be buying a refurbished one from somewhere. You have the Constellation 8K. Now you're in $11,000. You have the older ATEM 1 ME and the ATEM 2 ME and then ATEM 4 ME consoles. I think those are the older versions. No, I guess they're not that old, but I don't think they have the same benefits as these new Constellation HDs. And then you have the older ATEM 1 ME Production Studio 4K, ATEM 2 ME Production Studio 4K, the ATEM 4 ME Broadcast. And then somewhere in here, those are the HyperDecks, and you can see they go all the way up to 8K, and they have an external control device for the 4K and the 8K. That's that bottom right. You have the shuttle. You have the Blackmagic duplicator. You have a Blackmagic multi-dock 10G, so it's super fast, so you could record in your 10G network to these devices. They're hot swappable. Then you have the Ultra Studio, so you could record directly from a camera, SDI in and HDMI in. You have the Ultra Studio HD Mini. That is a Thunderbolt device, and you can do fill and key from it. You have the Ultra Studio 4K. You can do 4K fill and key from that. Again, they're both Thunderbolt devices, so you would get two SDIs out. You can't convert them to in, so you just get two SDI outs. Then you have the Intensity Pro, the Decklink 4K 12G, the 8K Pro, the Decklink IP HD. You have the Decklink IP HD Optical, and you have the Decklink IP SDI HD. Then you have their scanner, you have their Teranex, you have all the converters, and I'm still looking for the hubs. Where in the world are these hubs? Buried all the way down here somewhere. There they are. So these are the video hubs, and the new one is the 80 by 80. So 80 inputs in, 80 inputs out for big studios, and you can link them to whichever output. Any input to any output. So you can buy a 10 by 10 if you just want 10 inputs in and 10 inputs out. I would probably get one of these when I get Studio B fired up so that I could send any of these cameras in this studio through the hub to any camera or any location in the other studio. But again, it makes my mind want to explode when you start doing the research for all of this. So let me get back to this. So this is a good thing, Tony. Why not bring her assistant in remotely? Wow. Yeah. Well, part of the reason I can, but if you go back in time to when we first made the decision to bring Shannon, her assistant Angie, into her podcast, it was because of the dynamic of those two in the same room. There's something that happens, and we'll close with this tonight. I hope you enjoyed looking at the keys, the upstream keys and the downstream keys. Upstream keys obviously have lots of features. Luma, Chroma, pattern, DVE, and then you have flying key available, DVE, picture-in-picture, crazy stuff that you can do, and then basic downstream keys as well. But they were just dynamic together. So when you put them on camera together, it's a complete different beast than having them separate. And I think one of the things that we forget with all the remote capability is, and I've seen you and Joe together on screen in the same building, and I've seen you and Joe together on screen in a different building. Like, right, you guys don't live in the same city, but I've seen you guys together on your channels before, as well as recently as you guys come in remote. And so I will have remote ability. I will be able to bring guests. Right now, I could open up a portal into my network and bring in Angie from Idaho into Shannon's podcast. But once you put them on camera, it's just not the same. Now, they'd be looking at each other in the confidence monitor, and I would probably just do something as simple as this. Oh, not going to work right now. You know, picture in picture, side by side, two DVEs on the air, and they would see themselves but they still would be in separate houses. And it's just those two, it's just not the same dynamic. And that is why I haven't made that decision yet to bring them on the air. Okay, so a bunch of stuff just populated. So this is the question we're asking. I have heard, and I could be completely wrong. It would be the first time, of course, unless you ask my wife, any one of my close friends, or my kids. I'm wrong all the time. But ISO, no, I take that back. I apologize. Man, 62 years old, almost 63. David, I think you can use OBS for either or. It's Zoom ISO. Zoom ISO is only available for Macintosh. I don't know why that file just opened up in my head, but this is what old age looks like. So David, OBS, I believe you can use key and fill with either Mac or PC. So I apologize. You're going to need a DeckLink card or one of these other devices. I can never remember their name when I'm not looking at them. You go back up here again. So the Ultra Studio HD or 4K, you can use those because obviously you have to have a Thunderbolt port in your laptop, your Macintosh. But in reality, you can use those, and they have a alpha and they have a and B SDI out. If you look at the graphics of the back of those units. And so you can come out of those into your ATEM SDI or your 2ME or your 4ME, or convert them to come in HDMI in back of your ATEM Mini or ATEM Mini Pro Extremes. And you can use key and fill from OBS. But Zoom now has an ISO feature, which is really cool. Adam Tao demoed it for me last week. We were able to get together on Zoom ISO. And so he brought me in Zoom ISO, but that's Mac specific right now. I don't know why it's not available yet for PC. I think it's because of all the crazy graphic cards are out there and the latency and everything else going on with Zoom. Macintosh, they've got it working really smoothly. I don't think they have it working yet for PC. So I apologize. There is no limit, I believe, in OBS for key and fill. And Jay's right. I should change to that. I have a PC right here, and I have room in it for a DeckLink Duo card. And so I need to put that on my list and add that to my PC and just start doing it. So I could bring in my chat and all of that using OBS inside my PC. Come out of my PC into my live stream, or come out of the DeckLink Duo card into my live stream. Right now, my chat on the air is coming in a key from my PC. So Zoom ISO is Mac only. So this is coming in via my PC through my Upstream Key number 3, I believe. And so it's not alpha channel. There's no alpha channel. So if you ever see me get a super chat, and if you want to test it right now, pop in a super chat tonight, and you'll see sometimes this doesn't display correctly when super chat pops on the air, because I think there's some transparency in super chat or a super chat when they pop up. So it messes things up. So I clarify that. If you're watching this video, you can use fill and key coming through the right DeckLink Duo card or device like the Ultra Studios if you're using OBS, but it's Mac specific if you're using Zoom ISO. And that is what Tony's talking about here. I use the Sonnet enclosure with the Mac. Zoom ISO is Mac only. Thank you for clarifying that, Tony. And thank you guys for clarifying that. Okay. Jay says Windows does key and fill. Think we've established that. So sorry I didn't see that earlier. So David's saying he has the option in Windows, so that should work fine. Zoom ISO is Mac only. That's from Jay. I don't use the Video Hub. Yeah, that was the name I was looking for. Jay is using a Decklink card. I believe that was in the chat earlier. I wish my 2ME had 2 super sources. Yeah. So again, guys, I have 2 super sources because I have 2 ATEM Extreme ISOs. So think about it. They both function just like a regular device. So I could use Extreme ISO number 1 as my main streaming device, or I could use my ATEM Mini Pro as my main streaming device. But what I love about the ATEM Extreme ISOs is they have 2 HDMI outs. So I just bring the 2 HDMI outs from my second Extreme ISO into 2 inputs in my first one. I could get a SD model and bring all 4 outputs into my SDI, my ATEM Mini SDI or HDMI 1, but again, I'd have to convert all those outputs. So if I could go back in time and do it differently, I would have 2 SDI models, Extremes. They both have super source. They both have 4 keys, 2 downstream keys. So 4 upstream keys, 2 downstream keys, 2 media players. The advantage of a 2ME is you can play back short clips of video, and I wouldn't have that. That's a feature that I'd love to have it. But my Extreme ISOs all record. If I buy 2 SDI models, sell my 2 Extreme models, now I have 4 outputs in both of those devices. So I could come out of one, 4 outputs, and come into the other one. I can still record all the inputs in all of my ISOs. And so I could have complete recordings of every single channel. And so I just like the advantage that still is in all of the ISO recording ATEM Minis, plus the buttons on the front. I like that they're on my desk. I do a lot of training, a lot of consulting. I'm teaching people how to use an ATEM Mini Pro or an ATEM Mini Pro ISO or an Extreme ISO. And so they're not spending money on the bigger, a lot of my clients are not spending money on the 2MEs or the 4MEs. So again, because I do so much training and consulting, I need to have these devices on my desk. That's why I'd like to have Studio A and Studio B. Studio B will just be for broadcasting from it. I won't do any training there. And Studio A, which I'm in right now, will just be my training center and my man cave. So I won't do a podcast in here anymore. I'll get rid of these chairs. I'll bring my leather chair back in here, buy another leather chair, maybe 3 like I originally had in this studio, and turn it back into a man cave and a training room. And the training would all be happening on my desk mainly, but occasionally I might show someone how to do a green screen effect like this because I have the ATEM Mini Pro and I can set it up anywhere in the house, plug it into my network, set up a camera in the same location, and then bring it into the studio using my streaming bridge. So, okay, guys, that's it for me. I know there's more comments coming in here. Let's just look. David says, MY. Great answer to my remote guest question. Makes perfect sense. Yeah, so again, I just want to say this, Tony. I love the technology. I've been talking to some of my clients about it. Like, I have some friends of mine that are asking me to speak all the time. I have a friend that asked me to speak probably once a month. And the venue is in Soap Lake. And I love the area, but we're in wintertime. I don't want to get in my car and drive all the way up there. So I'm talking to him about bringing me in remotely. So we're talking about that right now. So he may end up bringing me in remotely. I have other friends of mine that I speak for or hang out with, and they want me to do some training. And so I'm teaching them how to get ready to bring me in remotely so that they could have me on a big screen in a room and I can demo things. And again, it saves them money, not paying my expenses, not paying my gas. And remember, all that's just expenses. It's extra time. The more places that I can go remotely from my studio, the better off I am. I have a client right now in Ireland. That is amazing, and I can do that here from my studio. I've had clients in other locations around the United States and around the world, and it's really cool. and bringing guests into my studio is something that I'm beginning to move towards. And I've been really postponing it because I'm probably going to build that rack for Studio B. And it's just a lot of money. It's 10 grand to build Studio B and probably another 10 grand of equipment. And I just don't have $20,000 floating around right now. I thought about a GoFundMe, but that's not going to be, why would people pay for me to build Studio B unless it was a nonprofit thing? And again, I'm not running any nonprofits right now. So we've been talking, we've been brainstorming. Shannon and I are talking about it. I can go back and sell RVs part-time, full-time. I can consult for the RV world. I can do some training and writing. So I thought about even traveling and doing some sales training in that market. I'm kind of waiting for all the trainers that I worked under for all their stipulations to expire so that I could travel around and do some training. So yeah, there's my mouse on the screen. And that's because I have chat on the air, no mouse, chat on the air, mouse. I have an itch right there. Chat off the air. That's why my mouse is coming on the air, because I have chat on the air and I'm going to that second screen with my mouse. Okay. We're going to wrap up these last chats and then we're getting out of here. In person is always better when possible. I agree. I can't wait to, I talked to Shannon about it. Guys, I would love to come your way. And I have a friend over on that side of the mountains. I'm really, it's on my bucket list to do. I really want to go to B&H with the two of you somehow, do a live stream together, somehow together, some videos. And then, so I'm really excited about the potential of that. I'll have to get up to speed so that we can do more of that. But I'm more excited about being in front of both of you for the first time and hanging out together. That would be totally cool. Okay, when you don't have to spend your day searching for 67 rings, you'll have more time to play with OBS. It's so true. So true. David says, laugh out loud. Sell some RVs, laugh out loud. Yeah, there's good money in RV sales, except for the market's down right now. And one of my best friends is managing an RV store for a local company in the Northwest. And he asked me to come at every show, every sale. But they only sold like 45 rigs at their last sale. The last couple of years, they've done over 100 or 75. They only sold 45, and there was like 25 salespeople there. So that's not the math that I'm interested in. When I go to those shows, there's plenty of traffic, and they're selling 100 units, and I might do 5 or 6. And that's 2 months a salary, could be 3 months of salary if you do really well at some of these shows. It could be 1 month's salary, it could be a half a month's salary. It just depends on if there's any profit left on those units, how old they are, how new they are, and if they're holding retail value. So again, if you come out this way, we'll make it happen. Well, that's good to know. So we'll have to brainstorm. So I promised Jay that I would announce when I'm doing my new Zoom meeting. So 2 weeks from tonight, we are going to do a super short live. I know none of you believe I can do that, but we are. A super short live 2 weeks from tonight. If you'd like to be a part of that Zoom meeting, it will not be live on YouTube, but we will be together on Zoom. So if you'd like to join that and I don't already have your email, I'll send a reminder out to everybody that's normally live with me. But if you're new to the channel and you haven't gone on my channel yet to subscribe, I will put a link in the description below. You just go to Life Journey. Let me bring it on the screen here. Let me bring my website up. If you go to my website, you can subscribe to my mailing list right here on the homepage, and it is lifesjourneyproductions.com. If you go to contact page, this is where you can request a free consult if you haven't already had one. I only do one free consult with each person, and then I explain to them my consulting plan. If they like to, it's super inexpensive in my opinion compared to everybody else that they have told me they've talked to. You can go for 90 days and then monthly from that point. We talk about the cost of all of that when we have that free consult. I don't talk the cost here on my live streams, but you can fill that out. And if you want to be a part of the Zoom event, just type in here, invite me to your quarterly Zoom. So name, email. If you don't want to give me your phone number, you're perfectly fine. But if you're a frequently person on here and you want to just exchange phones, I'm fine with that. Many of you I know really well because you've been with me for so long. And then type your message right here. That is for contacting me. That's for new clients. That's for people that want to be a part of that Zoom event. But if you just want to join the mailing list, that's right here on the home screen. Just plug in your email there. I'll get an alert. And anytime I send out an email, which is about 3 times a year, you'll get that email as long as it doesn't get revoked or you don't unsubscribe. So again, so that Zoom meeting will be for anybody that wants to hang out. If you want to give everybody else a tour of your studio, they get to see you, not just me. So the cool thing about that Zoom once a quarter is that we get to be together and I get to see your faces in the Zoom call and you get to see each other's faces. And it's a lot of fun. And the more the merrier, the longer we'll go. So we'll do about a 40 to 30 minute live stream. Then at the hour of 5 o'clock, we will then launch the Zoom. You'll all have been received the link by then via email. You join it. You get ready to show us what you want to show in your studio. So if you want to remotely show us your studio, you better get something ready, like your phone tethered or something like that. But we'd love to see your studio. If you have some new product you would like to show, again, it's just that group. If you are like some of you, like I know Joe now has some products that he sells. He has a new bonding device that's available, that he is a representative for a company. It's a top-notch, cool technology, up to 3 different, plus your local network devices or cellular devices. You could have Verizon, T-Mobile, whatever, all of those chips in it. The cards, whatever they're called. And then also if you have a local network and if you haven't seen Joe's new video, get over to Joe's channel and watch his video. And again, I think he put the name of his channel in the description below because he pops in under Tech for Fun and that is not Joe's new channel. So, and there's a video on Tony's channel as well. So please subscribe and go check out what they've been talking about. Tony and Joe did a video recently that I got a chance to watch, and it was on that new device. Joe has some new racks, some new devices he's created. Tony has a new rack in his studio. So new Blackmagic devices, and now Adam Tao is tricking out his studio. And I've seen some pictures of what he's building, and I can't wait for him to talk about it on his channel. And once he does, we'll bring Adam here on the live stream again as a remote guest through Zoom, and we'll chat with him about what he's done in his studio. So, okay, guys, I got to roll. I am exhausted from today. So Tony says, thanks for the stream, Keith. Good job as always. Speaking of Jay, I'm heading over to his stream now. Joe is his guest tonight. Cool. So go over to TVJ's live stream and check out Joe, who's going to be his guest tonight on Jay's stream. I am Keith. This is Life Journey Production Studios. Thank you guys so much for joining me tonight. Please subscribe to the channel if you're just watching in the background or after I was live. We would love to have you subscribe. Check out my new video on the media players, the difference between the smaller ATEMs and the bigger Extreme models, and how you access all the different ways you can use the media players. What is a media player? How do you use it? That video just released here on my channel. Last week, I talked about 7 differences. I believe last week or the week before that, 7 differences between those devices. And tonight we've talked about the upstream keys and the downstream keys, and even how you can use Photoshop to export with a ATEM control software plugin. So just make sure you have Photoshop installed first and then bring in a new version of the ATEM control software, and it will go in and make that plugin for you. So I hope to see you guys here next week. I have some other videos I'm planning. Hope you enjoyed some green screen of my wife's red truck I stole for tonight, streaming bridged into my live stream with the Bat Cave behind it. That's lots of fun. So again, 2 weeks from tonight, we'll have the gathering in Zoom. So I hope you guys will join me for that. I will be live next week, and we'll have a short live stream before the Zoom call the week after that. Until then, have a great week, and I'll see you soon. Peace out.